Mr. Thump. Thump! Mr. Thump was just same at home. He lived in an extremely nice home, but even there he couldn't help having those little accidents. For instance, one morning, Mr. Thump went outside his house and he noticed Chimney Pot had some loose storm night before. I must fix before it fell off, thought Mr. Thump to himself. He hurried to the ground. He said to fetch a ladder. It was very long letter. Mr. Thump walked to the ground and packed the letter house. He turned the corner of the ground pack. Crash! Went the living window. Oh dear, thought Mr. Thump. He turned to see what had happened. Crash! Went the kitchen door behind him. Oh dear, thought Mr. Thump again. He reached the ladder against the wall and housed what he could slump on the roof of the chimney pot. Crash! Went the bedroom window. So you can see how Mr. Thump had little accidents. Mr. Thump had many jobs, but somebody they never seemed to last very long. As soon anything got lost, broken and spilled and jammed and snapped and cracked and burned and burst and railed and crocked and spilled and seed, and Mr. Thump got all blamed. For instance, when Mr. Thump walked on a farm, he tripped on the dog that spilled the milk, which has carrying a farmer's wife, and which farm can let up. For instance, Mr. Thump went to postman and he got the seal on the post box, and they had to fetch the fire ring to come out and set him free. For instance, Mr. Thump went to the concert. He fell off the bus, but he couldn't catch up again, and all the passengers traveled without having to pay. For instance, when Mr. Thump had a computer, he found that he was hammering the nails, hammered his thumb most of the time, and nail hard at all, or over the recover from his sciences, or rather ununited some happenings, Mr. Thump decided to take on holiday. There was a could think about what sort of job he could do where he wouldn't such a nuisance to everybody. So he sent to the station to catch a train to be seaside. When Mr. Thump was on holiday, several things happened. For instance, he fell on a boat into the sea without lifeboat had come to rescue him. For instance, he quickly walking along the beach, minding own business. He got stuck foot in a bucket, and he couldn't get up. Had to walk around in his foot for hours. For instance, all the time he walking along the beach, he walked straight to the large hole somebody had dig, but he had to stay there at night because he couldn't climb out in his own. However, discovered the little accidents Mr. Thump enjoyed in his holiday, and while he had to spill idea about what short job he should do. It was quite the best idea Mr. Thump had ever had. It's a really spill idea. How Mr. Thump was happily for Mr. Belly the farmer. Mr. Belly had rather apple trees all close, and Mr. Thump works. Mr. Thump was picking apples. He doesn't use a ladder to climb and pick up trees. Oh no, Mr. Thump had a better way of picking apples than that. He just walks out. Before Mr. Thumping walks into a tree, thump, and downs an apple. And Mr. Thump catches. This makes a job for apple picking much easier. Mr. Thump is very pleased about his new job, and Mr. Belly is too pleased about his new apple picker. So you see, the story Mr. Thump had a source effort all, and If you have a thumb yourself, you know what to do, don't you? Go to an apple pig by Mr. Thumb and get wouldn't feel your thumb at all. You'll remember that the next time you have the thumb, won't you? Good!